was announced. Dragon Quest 3 is getting a 2D HD remaster. Looks phenomenal from what I've seen. Yeah, so it's like it's pretty sweet. So we're not going to cover.
So Dragon Quest 12 is going to be in the next Dragon Quest. Basically.
The next Dragon Quest has been announced, and I am.
Is there a trailer?
Thrilled. Yeah, there's a trailer. You want me to pull it up?
Teaser. No, I'm.
There's no like gameplay. What is this?
Of course not.
This is Square Enix. We announce games and they'll eventually come out. What is this gameplay nonsense? I'm on my new PC, and on my new PC, I have hard drive space for days. So I'm not sitting here going like, can I even record this? The answer is absolutely I can record this. Absolutely.
You got a new PC. Where the hell were you able to get like a GPU?
I ordered this in January, man. I paid for
this in
January.
Christ.
January. And but it's running great. So I got a 3080, a AMD 5950X processor, 64 gigs of RAM. I've got probably about 20 terabytes worth of local storage across a couple different things, but I have a hot swap drive bay. So I can take my hard drives from my old PC, which is down here somewhere on the floor. Can't do this. There it is. There she is, the old box. And and so with that, then yeah, I can rock and roll. And I even have some hard drives up there. So I was like, yep, I'm just gonna start hard drive.
Those bad boys.
And then my next purchase is hopefully going to be a new Intuos tablet and maybe I can start getting back into drawing my cartoons. So we will see. What is this thing he assumes he has called time?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice having time? I could just grab some sleep.
Yeah, get a little bit of that sleep.
I actually fell asleep a couple of times while I was trying to do some Monster Hunter stuff. I was like straight up going really bad.
It sounds like my Final Fantasy 11 days of it's like, check it out. I'm healing it. It's 3 a.m. Let's all go to bed.
Yet, you slacker? You need to
I
tweet,
suck.
Man.
I suck at Twitter. Here, let me get it going. I suck at Twitter.
You got to do these tweets like at least 1 hour ahead of time.
Is that the rule? Is that the like some? I wish there was.
That's kind of how I do it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Podcast time with Rory. Talking in the world today and their cash shop among Monster Hunter updates and more. And I should probably grab a link, so rather than like go, good luck and find it yourselves.
Yeah, go find this thing real quick.
Go find it. It's somewhere on the internet.
Here's the link if you want it. I just want to pick it up just now.
Oh, you. Let's see here.
I hope that's the right link anyway.
Either way, I'll grab it from here. There we go. Shareable link. Yeah, YouTube says I'm live, which is, I guess, an important thing. Yeah. I should probably confirm that because
you are because I just saw my face in your channel.
Yay!
So I'm pretty sure we're live.
We're live. Like more FaceTime, less FaceTime, more FaceTime.
More FaceTime is bad because my camera is a piece of crap, dude. So more FaceTime it's just like on me. It's just a big blurry mess.
Anyway, so it's been tweeted out. Let's see here. Boom. Oh, we got a private. Oh, you sent me a private. That's the link. Private messaging.
Yeah, that's why. There's the link. Where'd you think I put it?
I don't know, man. I'm having a day. I'm having you were like, yeah, this is kind of like, hey, I really want to talk about this, and then everything kind of gets in your way, and so it's like last minute. I'm like, I gotta run upstairs. So I'm glad I'm just not like, hey, just put 3 kids down to bed, and they did not want to be put to bed.
They never want to be put to bed.
I would totally reverse, like, dude, Mikey, like, carry me to bed and tuck me in.
Put me to bed.
100%, man, 100%.
Way better.
These kids today, they don't know how good they've got it.
They'll eventually learn.
Yeah. Axel, thanks for hitting that subscribe button. Welcome. Boom, baby. All right, let's see here. I don't see anybody else joining us for the show and the Discord. It's okay. It's okay. Let's see here. Let me ping friend real quick because I think he might have opinions. And then, if not, no worries. Let's see here. So outside of streaming, how's your stream going? Like, have you been having a good time with that?
How's my stream going?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've been streaming some Mass Effect, mostly just for fun. It's not like I expect like that's going to be a very successful stream. Mm-hmm. But while I was waiting for update 3.0, I was like, I want to go into 3.0 fresh, so might as well just like stream something else. And going back to Mass Effect was actually really, really cool. It's been a long time since I visited that game, and that game is really, really awesome. They did a pretty decent job with the remaster. So yeah.
Is it worth checking out? Like, is it worth?
Have you ever played it before?
Mass Effect 1, yes, and then I had originally planned to continue that on, and then ended up falling off because like I got consumed, got busy with work.
Yes, it's worth it.
Okay.
If you've never played, here's the thing: the best one is 2. So it's like if you had played 1 and 2, and you're like, is it worth getting just to play 3? I'd be like, eh. But like, if you've never played 2. It's very worth it. You can even like start fresh with 1 to like get the story back because they did a decent job, modernizing some of the visual stuff. Doesn't look too dated. You can still see that it is an old game, but Mass Effect 2 is 100% worth it, particularly with all of the DLC and stuff. Jesus Christ, so good.
What's up, Chaos? Chaos is stuck at work. So for those of you who are hanging out here before we get ready to start, reached out to a friend. We'll see if he's able to join. And if he can, that's awesome. If not, no worries. It could be just a duo show today. Sir Noodle, thanks for the Twitter, whatever the hell this is. Platform. What platform I'm on? Thanks so much for hitting that follow button. So Chaos, we love you. Love your new graphic and logo stuff, by the way. Really, really well done. Really enjoyable. All right. Well, we'll see if anybody wants to join in with the show. So that's the nice thing about the software is that people can technically join, share their thoughts, and go from there. And in fact, we might actually do that very thing. So I might just kind of open it up to like we'll have our discussion. We'll go through our stuff, and if there's time, we might open it up to the rest of everyone to kind of if they feel like connecting and dialing in. You don't have to show your face. You can actually have just a simple logo or image. And whatnot. So we will see how that goes. Are you ready?
I am ready, sir.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. I am recording. That's always like I always should say that. So everybody should like sound off in chat. Are you recording, Brian? It hasn't been me yet, but at the end of the day, one of these days, Alice.
You can just download the YouTube VOD. It's not a big deal. It actually has decent quality.
You can, and it's decent quality, but I capture in such like whenever I do the recording versus like if you go back to the live, like if you ever go watch the live show when it's done versus when I actually what I've decided to do is to take this and actually upload it from the recording perspective. Audio quality is like 1,000 times better, video quality is 1,000 times better, and we always were doing that just for the audio. Anyway, so all right, let's kick this off. Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio, episode 21. Joining me is a one-on-one with Rory. We might today, who knows, as these shows are filmed live, actually have call-ins talking about New World's Cash Shop, talking about updates to Monster Hunter Rise, talking maybe even a little bit of that Outriders storyline since we haven't got the chance to sit down and talk about that yet. As always, you guys can sound off in the comments below while you're live, and hopefully, just like Sir Noodle just says, hey, just join. What are we talking about? We can highlight that and bring that into this conversational podcast today. So thank you all for tuning in live. And if you're watching in the archive or on MP3 where podcasts are found, be sure to go and find Rory Khan, sub to his channel, become one of his.
An Iron Breaker.
I was going to say shield. I was going to say shield breaker, and I was like, that doesn't sound right, Brian.
It doesn't.
So he got it, but he saw that I paused. We're humans. We're humans here. We're not robots. Yeah. We're not machines. Anyway, Rory,
even though Even though it looks like it sometimes, like you might notice that I'm looking at the camera and I'm looking at my eyes are a little bit low. Yeah, it's the sleep deprivation kicking in. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to fall asleep, I swear.
Oh, I'm not worried about you falling asleep. You know, the best thing about being sleep deprived is like it usually leads to the best and most clippable moments.
Oh,
like, oh my gosh.
Not sure that's a good thing.
I don't know. Here we go. Let's get canceled, boys. Let's do it. Oh, really? How you been, dude? You've been playing a lot of games, been streaming, and that's kind of what's leading to this little sleep deprecation. Why don't you give us an update on all things you?
I mean, I've been pretty much. I got the a Mass Effect code from EA, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna check it out so that I can make a video about it and talk a little bit about it and whatnot.
Hello?
And that turned into hello. And that turned into basically just playing it nonstop because it's just a game that I really, really enjoyed the story and I just got hooked on it. And then earlier this week, Monster Hunter Rise, earlier this week was like yesterday, I think. No, it was the day before, actually. Monster Hunter Rise 3.0 came out and I was like, okay, I guess I have to, just play the crap out of Monster Hunter Rise. It's been pretty crazy.
What do we need to know about 3.0?
So 3.0 brought in the actual final boss of the game because they weren't able to, because of Corona and whatnot, they had to ship the game a little bit less complete than we would have liked. But, they committed to it and they were like, okay, listen, next month, big update 2.0, lots of new stuff. And then after that, big update 3.0 with the ending of the story and all that stuff. And they delivered on all of that. And the final boss was friggin' amazing. And they also brought back an old favorite, which is Volstrax, basically a monster that's like a jet plane. You fly super fast through the scenery. It's really crazy. And we got some more challenging quests that they've added as well. So it was a fantastic update and a lot of fun.
And joining us right as we get started, Chili, which is not his fault. This was totally on me. I was like, dude, you want to come talk about New World's Cash Shop? And I was like, here's the link.
You're very lucky.
I am very lucky.
Just got off the train, 10 minutes ago.
So we got Sleepy Gang, we got Commute Gang coming in. So this is gonna be probably the best show we ever record. I guarantee it. Chili, dude, how have you been? We're just kind of
thank you.
Pre-showing it. Have you? We're not talking any spoilers for any Final Fantasy here yet, but how's your week been, dude?
It's been pretty good. Beat the MSQ and I've reached 25 in Zadnor actually.
Dadgum, dude, that's amazing. What do you think?
I'm pretty close. I'm level 24. I'm pretty close.
I enjoy it, actually. It's very fast. It's incredibly fast. I actually think it needs to be nerfed a bit.
I hear the real grind is actually the post 25. It seems like people were, because I've heard that I haven't touched it yet. My plan for 14 is to dive in on Monday. But essentially, I hear that it's fast, but then once you get to that post 25, because they do kind of have a meriting, system with this, that it's that's really where the grind comes into play.
Yeah, but you don't really need that for the dungeon, so because you can already clear the 48-man dungeon with 4 people.
All right.
So
very nice.
My biggest complaint.
I just rushed when I got back home. So
don't worry, man.
My biggest complaint about Zadnor is that I felt that the zone is way too big. Which, at least in the first couple of days for me, it made it hard to actually get to the fates. Even after buying the maps and whatnot to get as fast speed as I possibly could, I just found it really, really hard to sometimes get to the thing before it was over. If you're in the middle of a Zerg, you're good. The second you're away from the Zerg, catching back up becomes a complete pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Chaos signing off in chat. Why would you want it nerfed? I'm curious to seeing as the grind is post 25. I don't know. I haven't yet to touch it, so I'm not going to weigh in on that post grind. I think essentially there's never going to be anybody happy when you make an MMORPG. You're going to satisfy a handful of people. You're going to disappoint the vast majority of people at any one time. Everybody gets a win and everybody takes an L from time to time in a game. I want to transition into our kind of big meaty topic. Obviously, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen information come out about New World, and that's got a lot of gamers. I would say rightfully. I think that some of the reaction is understandable, but I think and I've expressed my opinion a couple of times, but that's why I wanted to bring in a panel here and have the discussion about cash shops. What is pay to win? Is this a good sign? Is this a bad sign? Will this hurt the game overall? And just kind of get a round table. And we'll start with you, Rory. To give a synopsis really quickly over it, is that the NDA was broken. It was leaked essentially about a cat shop with cosmetics with keywords at launch, which essentially is like, okay, they're going to do this, or they're not going to have pay to win at launch. Does that mean it's coming later? Then essentially the internet does what the internet does best, and kind of just just jumped on a few of those words. And then essentially you see New World go quiet for at least a week, which I thought was the right call, because it's like, guys, you got to get your message together, because they didn't have the ability to kind of say, hey, this is what our plan is. It just all came out because of the NDA break. And then they released their message this week, which we again see people kind of glom onto a couple of key words. And so what's your take, Rory, on this whole situation?
I mean, I think that they took a week to think about what they were supposed to say, and then they said the wrong thing again. Yeah. It's like, to me, the most important thing about this message is the intent. And the intent that they have is like, you can tell that they want to sell you stuff, and the things that they want to sell you effectively do give you in-game power, whether they choose to believe it or not. Right. The first thing that I want to bring up is, like they said, at launch, we're not going to be selling things that give you power, which implied that, later down the line they would. And then the examples that they give you, one of them is rested XP, which to me is completely and utterly ridiculous. It basically, the whole concept of rested XP, the fact that they want to sell you rested XP tells me that they don't understand what rested XP was invented for. The reason for the existence of rested XP is for, there's going to be players that are going to have enough time to grind for as long as they want. They don't need rested XP. And then there's going to be players that have their jobs and can only play like 2 hours a day or something like that, maybe 1 hour a day. And for those players, they log out at an inn, they get rested XP, and that allows them to catch up with the other players. The simple fact that they would sell rested XP is completely and utterly ridiculous and destroys the entire concept of rested XP to begin with. And then they're like, oh yeah, we wouldn't sell you things like power, rested XP. I directly consider that power. But let's say you wouldn't consider rested XP power. Then they're like, okay, we'll sell you fast travel. And I'm just like, that is literally power in the concept of New World. Because, like,
especially New World. It's especially in this game.
I've played the beta of New World, and the big portion of it was like ground domination, like dominion of a zone. Because if you are in the wrong faction, you are screwed. And if somebody else was in the right faction, they're like, oh, we need to be in this place at this time. Being able to fast travel there is a literal translation to power, straight up. There's no even discussion to be had there. And then to top it off, they're like, oh, and the rest of it is just cosmetics. And it's like, okay, just cosmetics is one thing. Sure, I'll be able to take some cosmetics. The problem becomes how much of those cosmetics are going to be available in game versus how much of the cosmetics are going to be available in the store. Like, what are the options that we're going to have? And that is something that we can't tell from a beta or an alpha. We'll only be able to tell.
Nobody can tell. Like, you can't tell me. You have to show me. Like, exactly. You could say, I promise I'll never do this. And then 20 years go by and you're like, oh, you never did that. Okay, thank you. But you could be like, I promise.
In some ways, I'm happy that they haven't said that. They've said that there's no launch. They haven't said it's not going to happen. So I'm happy that they're being honest at the fact that they have the idea and they have the plans to possibly implement this. I'm one of the few people that play Final Fantasy 14 that supports the job boost and the skip because I have multiple different characters. So I don't want to go through the story of multiple characters.
Right.
I personally would like, I know they'd never do this, but I would personally like it to lock off any kind of jump potion to like an achievement that you unlock from completing the something with your main character. Yeah. At least achieve the max level with your first character in any MMO before you're able to purchase any sort of jump. That would be my way to implement it.
Right.
And so you don't have people just pay instantly to win.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where, go ahead, Rory. Yeah, please.
I think the most important thing from the messaging that we've received from the New World devs is their intent. Because, like, ultimately, you can tell me whatever you want, but your intent and the fact that they double down on it with their second message, you know that they're intending on selling you items that are questionable in terms of, like, their legitimacy from a gameplay competitive standpoint, right? That's their intent. And at that point, I just don't trust them anymore. It's the same thing that happened with Destiny when they nerfed the experience. I could never trust those developers anymore. And now we've seen them, like, mess things up with their cosmetic armor system that's completely ridiculous from what I hear people say. And it's just like when you get to that point and that is the messaging that they are going for, this literally took me from someone that when I played the beta, I was like, I can see that there's balance problems here, but the gameplay that is here is very interesting to me, and I'm definitely going to be playing it when it comes out. That was my stance when I came out of the beta. And now, after these two messages, I'm like, I'm never going to play this game. I don't care what you do to it. Even if it's pitch perfect when it comes out, I'm never going to be interested, because in the back of my mind, I'm always going to know that your intent for this game is to eventually milk the crap out of the player base for everything they're worth. And I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm just not. It's over for me, that type of stuff.
Is there anything
It
that would
doesn't
change your
help
mind?
that Amazon doesn't have any history with this
Right.
either. Like, they don't have a gaming history yet, so they can't. Like, there's goodwill when it comes to Square Enix and other MMO developers, but with Amazon, there is no goodwill yet because they haven't released a product.
Right. There's nothing we can trust. There's no build. Like,
Yeah.
everything is smoke and words until you have something that's actionable and trustworthy to say, okay, yeah, like here's what they mean by this. I have no issue with Amazon wanting to make money. I mean, like that would be like silly, but they have to deliver a good, if not great game. And if they don't do that, then nope. Then all of the cash shop, everything that, this has come out over the last couple of weeks is completely just worthless, because if it's not a good game, no one's going to play it. If it is a good game, then the conversation revolves around what ultimately is appropriate monetization, what is fair and, to both parties as the player as well as the developer of that. I'm going to jump right now into the core aspect of what they posted this week to set the actual words. We could talk about that. We'll come back to it as well. And if you guys are watching with us live, I've actually posted the link if you want to come in. If you've got to you don't need to have a camera, but as long as you have a good mic, you can actually funnel into the on deck area for the software. And we can actually let you also weigh in on your thoughts and have a kind of a more lively discussion rather than just chat comments for this episode of Epic Loot Radio. But to go through it here, we've got greetings, adventurers. We are releasing our in-game store today for alpha players to test content and provide feedback in preparation of our August 31st launch. The store will allow in-game purchases for cosmetic items outside of our deluxe edition and pre-order bonuses, and we have received a lot of feedback already. I bet they have. Like I wish that was like bolded or whatever.
Feedback.
We received this feedback and believe that it's important to make sure that the store is viable now for players to experience, or visible, if I can learn to read, to test directly. Now, items that are in the store during the alpha will be purely cosmetic. Here's another thing that is just, let's say they have the best intent. Like you brought this up, Rory. Let's say they have the absolute best intent. The language they're using here is essentially just allows for so much, because we don't have trust, right? Like if we trusted them, like, oh yeah, they have all these games and they're done really well and they never like take advantage of the player, like that would be, nobody would look into that statement at all.
It's like those lawyer contracts that just provide them with the maximum latitude possible to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
It's like during the alpha, it's going to be purely cosmetic, but when we actually receive the game,
then anything can go. But I think they said the fact that it's going to take about a year for certain paid things to come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they said about a year. They said minimum.
Right. And like I fully like expect to see with the game itself, if they because like when you're Amazon, when you're this size, when you're investing this kind of money, what makes sense? So outside of the cash shop, right? It makes sense to release like paid expansions. Like that seems to be a very well accepted kind of mannerism, especially from a taxable mindset, right? Like, oh, this is our capital taxable versus our general revenue. But outside of the expansion, the question is how do you kind of cover the gap in the year, right? ESO doesn't have a subscription. It has an optional subscription, but then they have the yearly expansion as well. So if you think about it, even with Destiny, no sub, but a yearly expansion, they basically just kind of take their subscription fee up all at once. And then they have a cash shop and, seasonal content to kind of monetize the in-between ways, like for those who are actively interested in that style of content. Anyway, go ahead.
ESO also has optional dungeon DLC as well as the expansion. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So it's that there's lots of different ways that games can make money. And that's what I hope that this kind of conversation turns into. Like, what would be the ideal in this case? So anyway, that provide so cosmetic can provide no gameplay advantages. As the game evolves, we may add new categories to store items based off of the player's desires. We may make mistakes, but that's what we're testing to engage with our community and solicit feedback. The alpha store test will include an example skin, an emote, and dyes. And these are not the exact items that we'll sell in live, but we'll give you of the idea of the type and the flavor. So we can kind of take a look here. You have the tree splitter skin, a flex emote, scarlet dye, black dye, gold dye. Anything out of what they were showing right here that's a red flag to anybody on the panel?
No. I mean, is there a black dye in there? Did I see that right? Okay.
Yeah,
that to me, that specific color, that's a bit of a red flag, to be honest, because you know that everybody loves the color black. Like, let's be real here. I mean, for instance, look at Final Fantasy XIV. Isn't gunmetal black like the most expensive color of all in the auction house?
Yeah, but
it's black and white.
So,
go ahead, Jelly.
Gunmetal dye is only from scripts, so that's why it's so expensive.
But I think there's also a lot of demand for black dye, is what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah.
From my experience in most games, black is one of those colors that is super important. So, you know, they're obviously going to monetize that. Like, you don't see them monetizing. I mean, there's scarlet dye, but there's nothing, and a golden dye, right? That's what it is, because I can barely see in the video. So there's deep red, black, and gold. They're not monetizing like a brown. Nobody wants a shade of brown. Nobody cares about brown or yellow or something. No, they're monetizing the black. So that's the thing that kind of bothers me off the top of my head. Go ahead. You know, there's going to be like a light black version in the game. It's going to be like some kind of like a gray that's not quite there. And you're going to be able to tell if it's like, oh man, if I had black, it'd be so much better. That's one of the first strings that they're pulling right there. But, you know, I also think that's kind of fair game. But the fact that it's black also pushes me a little bit towards why
I agree. It all depends if there's a equivalent in game.
Yeah,
because Final Fantasy 14 does have soot black dye. I know it's not gunmetal black dye, but soot came out first. So it'll be interesting to see the difference between the colors and whether it is, you know, you can't get anything that's just, you know, equivalent in game. If there's an equivalent in game, I don't see the issue, especially if it's not much different. If it's like one is black and one is slightly dark gray, then yeah.
See, that Chaos Prime comment is exactly the point of it. This is a new game, and their primary concern right now is how they can like spin this story about their shop in a positive light. That's what they're worried about. Like, they're not that concerned talking about class balance, weapon balance, whatever. They're not concerned about talking about how fun the game is. They're concerned about, hey, by the way, we might sell you rested XP. We might sell you fast travel things. What that tells me is that if you're selling fast travel, most likely traveling in your game is not going to be fun. And I can tell you from my beta experience, it's not. It's long trudges of just like running. Right. There wasn't even mounts. I'm assuming there's going to be mounts in the actual final game. There wasn't even mounts. You have to
change it up. Well, because the travel doesn't necessarily like fast travel. I think is fine if it has a cost and have a value, because being the world is so giant, there is a value that creates an economy of if you can get an item in A and then you need that item in B. That what's the time to go get said item and move said item. Final Fantasy 11 is key in that aspect. Travel is a fast, resource in that regards. If you're able to get around the map faster, you are winning. You are able to make money. You are able to do way more, and that ends up becoming kind of a key aspect to playing the game. Same thing with here. The question of mounts, the questions of these things is that it has to be hopefully considered into the game's design at the beginning, because if they don't design the game to have mounts and then eventually add them in, it completely would change the economies that are established based off of those going on supply runs and, things of that nature. Like, okay, you could break whole markets up that way. And then fast travel itself would take that and say, oh, if I can get there and here and fast travel for money, I can turn that into in-game money, which I think is a concern. So that's definitely something that is concerned. Now, for those listening in the audio version of this podcast, Chaos says, They're going to monetize everything, and that's my dear. I'm thinking, and that's pretty clear. But either way, it's a new IP, and they should be building a community, not worrying about how to fleece their community. I think that's a really great comment. Thank you. Let's see here. Fear not, my dear.
Fear. That's my fear. But
I think the funniest thing with all this microtransaction talk,
Mhm.
you know what we haven't heard about yet? Is if there's ever going to be any Amazon Prime
Connection.
connection.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't connect this to Amazon Prime. I think that would make sense. They connect Amazon Prime as a part of like Twitch Prime, to various other games. Not to connect it with your own game would be like, well, that was a miss. I don't know if that'll be on day one, but I know that I feel like that's going to be something they integrate. Now, Fabled Way says it reminds me of Black Desert the first time. It was really fun, little novelty. Afterwards, it just became a useless time sink to him. And then let's see here. It does motivate the city-to-city trading, and which is nice, and it also means mounts and levels become more important. But otherwise, it's just minutes, if not hours, wasted regarding travel. All right, I'm gonna keep moving on because I obviously monetization is a hot topic, and there's a little bit more we need to cover in the post, and then we can come back to more of the discussion here. Their plan is to have an in-game store that lets us create an outlet for players to find enough value in store items that they are happy to purchase them. What will make players happy to purchase things from the in-game store is if they love the game.
Being good.
The game is good. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I usually don't buy a lot of stuff in game stores and whatnot. But for instance, in the case of Monster Hunter World, they made like a bundle of a pack of DLCs, costed like 40 euros, something like that. I bought that bundle. I was like, give me all the DLCs. I don't even use most of them. I was like, I just want to throw more money at you. Like, this game's so good, let me throw more money at you. Like, that's what they need to focus on. Just make a good game. People will give you more money. They will buy the things that you're selling if you just focus on making a good game.
Yeah.
The problem is that nowadays everybody's focused on, I got to make sure that this thing is monetizable and whatnot. Like recently I saw another article, a little bit unrelated, but kind of relevant to this point, which was about Overwatch 2. Mm-hmm. And their new team lead, because Jeff Kaplan left Blizzard, their new team lead was talking about what they're doing for Overwatch 2, and the words that he was using, it was like, oh, we're really trying to come up with a way to get players to continue playing, to get players to continue logging in and having fun with their friends. And I'm like, actually, he didn't say having fun with your friends. That's the point. At no point during his sentence was he saying, we're really focusing on improving this game, making the game better, making the game fun. And it's like, we're focused on finding ways to get you hooked on it and coming back every day. Engagement. That's the only thing that matters. And this is the same thing bonus. Here.
Yeah. Go ahead. Shirley, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I was going to say daily login bonus. That's what they're going to do.
Daily login. I don't like daily logins. I do not like
daily login bonuses. That's one of the fastest ways of getting me out of your game is like put a daily login bonus in there. I'll be like, oh, okay.
They work though, and that's the thing. I know, like, because I logged in today on Guild Wars because they're giving away like living seasons as a part of their road to the End of Dragons, and every time you log in, there's something for you. With that game, and honest, like it works. There's a psychological thing, but there's a point of like no return. There's a breaking point in human psyche where it's just like this feels like I don't want to log in, but the reward is too good not to log in. Then over enough time that I think that wears on you to the point where people are just like, I'm done. I have to hardcore separate from this. Go ahead.
And because then the problem becomes the risk of that, in my opinion, is that eventually when someone breaks out of that and they're just like, oh, I missed one day. Oh, I missed another one. You're gone forever. Like this happened to me, for instance, in Shadowlands. I was playing Shadowlands pretty regularly with a couple of friends of mine. And I took a 2-week break, I think, because I went on a vacation or something. And when I came back, I was like, oh, it's the dopamine hits are not working anymore. Yeah. It's over. I'm done. Because I was being forced to do like 20 hours of chores a week to get to that good part of the game, which was like raids and mythic dungeons and whatnot. And eventually when I cut off from that loop and I was like, oh, I haven't done it in so long. Now I missed out on all these things. I don't want to do it anymore. Done. Over forever. Never went back.
Chat saying, and with Fable coming in, dailies, weeklies, even monthlies should be your incentive to log in again. I guess he meant shouldn't. Content, hopefully on a rotation. 14 does okay-ish with tomestones, I feel, if you value them, that is. Like I've been playing Final Fantasy 11 again, classic, and it honestly has been a beautiful experience so far. It's been a beautiful experience in regards to that. It doesn't have these things that we've grown to be frustrated at. It doesn't have, and you feel it when it's like, why am I logging in? I'm logging in A, for the community. B, I'm logging in because like there's like things that I want to do. There's downsides to this too. Like there's, I like to hands down where like, well, I guess I'm not going to party tonight, so I guess I'm not leveling. I guess I'll go do something else. There's a lot of things to do, but if that something else didn't interest you, it's very easy to see how people drop off that game really quickly because it's not forgiving and it doesn't sit here and hold your hand even right at the start. Like there's no like, hey, welcome. Here's what everything means. Anyway, we'll continue on our post before we get off on a rant. Anyway, additional opportunities to provide value. Releases will showcase new dyes, apparel, weapon skins for players to customize their characters as well, theme decorative furnishings, and additional housing pads for players that they can purchase. Cosmetic items will not provide any perk for those or boost to stats. Now, what's interesting is that when it comes to housing, that we do know housing and what you put in it will actually affect you in the game. That will have a real world, like have a boost as long as you pay your housing taxes. Thus, you get to keep those perks. So, like putting in items that don't provide that, it'll be interesting to see what that ratio looks like. Just chilling. Is that what you're highlighting, Chili? While in the game store will provide additional opportunities for customization and feature unique cosmetic items, there's a wealth of visually diverse in-game loot for players to discover all across the tournament. At the same level of aesthetic quality in items that can be found in the store, our goal is not to make the cosmetics offered in the store better, but different than existing gear. We understand players work hard for their gear and have no intention of diminishing the value of their favorite pieces. And often the store items are additive for role players and players who like to change their appearance frequently, aka whales would be, I think, the appropriate term.
Yeah.
Below are some examples of in-game versus purchasable in the store. So they show you in-game, and then like right here is in the store in and of itself. So it's not anything that's like, oh, that has a fancy whatever. The other thing like that New World has, and it's kind of going for it, being that how they've set up the world and the lore, it's like so many different cultures have been to Eternum all throughout time. So you have a lot of visual aesthetics that you can draw from in terms of history. But essentially, if all of a sudden their store items become very flashy and glowy and like over the top ridiculous, like that would essentially and could like impact the visual experience of the world itself. If all of a sudden everything has this like real world kind of grit to it, and that's the theme style, which so far that's what the game has offered, then essentially you end up, I think, having something that is visually like frustrating for me to look at, to where it's like there's some high, neon pink, sparkly, like rainbow unicorn, gear. Well, like, can I not play with that guy? Because everybody else here is kind of set into this thematic tone. Any thoughts on kind of what we just covered here?
No, not much, because there's not enough in-store things to compare. Because like this is what they're showing us. Now imagine if there's like a Tron-like skin in the store. Just like something completely out there. Then you're like, okay, dude, we see what you're doing. All right. We needed more in-store examples is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We need to wait to see what they're actually going to do with the store before we can actually complain about what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I wonder if there's like a 4-seater car, for instance.
So they say, here's our Final Fantasy 15 crossover. At launch, we're going to offer themed cosmetic items across a variety of categories, visually on par with the endgame gear, such as themed apparel, weapon skins, themed skins that can be applied to existing apparel, or weapons that change your visual style, housing decor, pouches and decks, emotes, which we've seen, die packs, which we've seen, company crests. New designs will be available to store. Personalize your company's insignia. We won't consider selling anything other than cosmetic items until 2022 at the earliest. So probably most likely a year. I'm going to say this, though, like what Chili said, like at least they're saying this. At least it's not like we promise we'll never, ever even think about something that will make you unhappy. We promise to, because then in a year's time, it's like, at least for somebody who's considered like trying to decide that their $40 is worth it, at least that we can say, hey, this is what they've said Go ahead, Rory.
So this comes out on the 31st of August, right?
Yes.
I seem to remember that date. So this is what, 5 months, something like
5-6
that,
months,
right?
yeah.
It's 5 months. So it's like 5 months. We unleash. It goes. Monetization goes. Brrr, all the monies.
Well, depending on also how the game is received, that's very well possible, right? Because
Yeah.
I would say that if nothing else, New World devs have shown that they are listening, they're applying feedback, they're working and having that level of communication. That can easily go awry, right? Like we can sit here and say, we've said it on the show numerous times, gamers will optimize the fun out of anything. Like whales, if they end up funneling like and driving the game comes out, it's just there, right? It just exists. Nobody's really playing it, but the people who are playing it are spending lots of money, therefore driving the game in a direction that it might never recover from. In theory, like we don't really know, because again, those sparkly wing, pink unicorn, outfits that then vastly contrast with what they were like their original vision. Could be interesting to see. 2 more sections, and then we'll dive back in because I want to get some more thoughts. And also, guys, we posted the link. It looks like we actually have, some people kind of funneling into the chat here. I'll kind of post the link again if you want to join us live, and we'll see here. Just have a decent mic, and we'll go from there. All right. Maintain a level playing field. The in-game store content will not give players an advantage in PvE or PvP gameplay. Our goal is to not provide anything that players will find pay to win. For in-game store offers. Now, no items in the store will give players instant lifts to their overall gear score, experience points, or impact territory control. No item in the store is to gate the experience game mechanics. Players should never feel like they have to spend additional money to experience New World once they purchase the game as a price to pay at launch, and it lets you play the entire released game themselves. They want to embrace veterans and welcome in new arrivals. MMOs live off the blood of the sprout, right? Like if you don't have new people coming into your persistent world game, it becomes rather desolate rather quickly. But let's go ahead and talk about it. While the tournament will be full of veteran players, we anticipate new players landing on its shores for years to come. Well, after launch, we will consider ideas for items that influence mechanics like rested XP, both through the store and earned in game. This would allow late to the game players entering a tournament to catch up at a pace most comfortable for them and fight alongside their friends in in-game content. While we're not creating a pay-to-win environment, the more players that are able to experience in-game content and participate in in-game modes, the healthier the game experience will be. The timing on when we release any sort of boost would depend on player sentiment, feedback, and how we see new players progressing through the game well after launch. If we decide to implement these types of items, they will also be obtainable through in-game methods. Does allowing you to attain the same items in a cash shop help, or does it, or are you neutral, or do you hate it? What do you think? We'll start with Chili.
I feel like, okay, I'm going to add this, right? They keep saying rested XP being sold.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is not rested XP. This is, in fact, XP boosters more than anything. Rested XP is when you've logged off and you're away for a couple of days or a little bit of time, and then you log back in, and that's rested XP. This is just buying a booster pack.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically an XP multiplier. I can't say I'm 100% against it because I played Warframe and I spent money on boosters on Warframe, so I can't exactly.
Again, the question though is that, like, if you can still get the boosters by playing the game, like in my mind, like 14, you got gear that you play and it gives you boosted experience. Same thing is that you pre-order, you can get an item that will boost your experience. That it's like you can still go and get a similar item in the game by going and actually playing the game itself. It's not. And it also doesn't work past a certain level. So it's not like boosters would ever help cover that gap. Let's say, they decide to raise the level cap at some point. Boosters are ineffective so people can try to race, because people enjoy races in these kind of games. So that way you're not sitting here saying like, well, I better be buying up boosters so that I can close that gap in the race itself.
But it sounds like they might do that, to be honest, from that though.
Yeah.
To me, for starters, I think it's quite arrogant of them to just say, "Oh, a tournament is going to be full of veteran players." They're like, "Our game's going to be super successful." Like, for starters, that's a little bit arrogant. But besides that, When it comes to items being sold in a store and in game, I have one word for, not one word, but like one system for that, and that is the Diablo 3 auction house that literally destroyed that game. Like single-handedly, the implementation of an auction house made that game so bad that it was the only Diablo game that I didn't really reach maximum difficulty on release because I just stopped playing because it wasn't fun. Because when you implement something like that on a store, you're going to balance the dropping of the item in the game to be a lot more rare to make sure that the game that the item that's in the store is valuable. That's exactly what they did to loot, and that's why when Reaper of Souls came out, then they were like, okay, we implemented Loot 2.0, we took away the auction house, now everything's good. That's when the game started being good again. And that's the problem. It's like, it doesn't matter if the item is available in store and available in game, because every single time either the developers or someone from marketing or someone from sales will come in and say, make that thing drop less to get people to buy it in the store. Every single time, every single developer, every single time. It never changes. It literally never changes. So that I completely...
Good.
Sorry. And you brought up the Final Fantasy 14 thing, but really that's only from up to level 25, isn't it? And then
the current one is
80.
Yeah, the current the earring that's about a pre-order goes up to 80. So they've had a couple.
No, there is and if you go to Boja, there's an achievement reward for 1,000 turn-ins where you get an XP earring, which is 70/80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's only 10% XP versus 30% from the pre-order. So
so it's less valuable basically.
Yeah.
Even in 14, it's less valuable. But the point here is, to me, is like they're looking to monetize a problem that they haven't even run into yet. So like, I'm pretty sure that Realm Reborn did launch with a level boost and a story skip, right? That probably came in like maybe Stormblood, or was it during Heaven's Word even? I don't know. You guys know.
The level boost came into play, I believe, with Heaven's Word.
I thought it was the end of Heaven, like the
middle. It wasn't at launch at Heaven's Word, but it was like, yeah.
Okay, so it's like these guys already like, there's gonna be a problem in this game. They know there's a problem. They're not even thinking about a creative solution to that problem. There's like, oh, it's fine. We'll just sell a boost and they'll skip it. It's like, no, you should be creating value in that content. That content should be valuable to players. Whereas, for instance, in 14, sure, they added the thing. The reason they added, in my opinion, is because at that point, they have an established player base. There's new people coming in. They want to play with their friends. I think it's somewhat justifiable because it's a problem they didn't really think ahead. Right. Now, here's the thing. That content that is in Final Fantasy 14, in my opinion, is still valuable. Like, I played through Realm Reborn in 2019. And then I played Heaven's Word, and then I played Stormblood, and then I played Shadowbringers, and all of that content was valuable. The one that was hard to do was Coils, because nobody was running Coils anymore. But other than that, I ran all of the content. I mean, everything. I ran all the raids. I ran all the trials. I ran literally everything there was to run, and I found value in every one of those bits of content. Whereas here is like the first solution they go is like, oh yeah, well, they'll skip it. It's like, skip it. No, create value. Like, either create value or streamline the process in game as opposed to extorting money out of people. Think of a creative way to do it in game. Solve this in gameplay somehow.
Yeah,
this is. I don't understand.
I think for me, when you talk about gameplay, the solution is trade. I think essentially that boosts, if they were tradable, you get a drop, you can put it up on the market, and if somebody wants to purchase that boost, they have that, and then they have the option of purchasing it within game or whatever. And if you're going to sell anything to the player, PSO2 does this. Like, if you buy something, certain items, there are certain things that are market restricted, like within any game. But if like, oh, somebody bought this and they didn't really ended up wanting it or needing it because it came a part of a package, or they're at PSO2's loot box case, it's like, oh, you can actually put that up on the in-game market. So you, the player who's never spent a dime, wants that, you could actually buy it from somebody using in-game currency. And I think essentially having that ability to trade gives the player more choice. You want to play and grind out in the game, you're not cut off from anything else out of there, but somebody is still purchasing that and therefore supporting the game with the development with their money. But that was their choice as well. They like, okay, I can do this. There's balancing issues, and I'm not going to sit here and we're not going to like nickel and dime like the every potential balance issue of that idea. But as a simple, way of just how I think about it. I go trade. Like, let me, if I get the battle pass that they've kind of talked about, like as ideas that they're kind of thinking through, trying to monetize between the expansions, because they have talked about paid expansions. Then it's like, great. All right. If somebody wants to go and purchase something, they get something out of the battle pass that like, I don't really care for that. If they can trade that onto the market and I can choose to purchase it with my in-game gil or gold or whatever they're in it. Like they call it coin right now, but it's like, I wish they would call it doubloons. If I could kind of participate in that economy, it will always help to give value to that in-game economy, thus making it to where it's like, yeah, there's a cycle here that if I want to go do all of this other stuff and I get money for that, I can then decide if I want to engage in that market. Rory, you look like you have a thought on that subject.
I was just thinking that Chile said about the Warframe stuff that he buys boosts for Warframe, and to me it's like, okay, but Warframe is free, so it's like it's okay for them to have that type of stuff, right? Whereas this is going to be a game that you buy. This is buy to play. I don't know if there's going to be subscription. I assume there's no subscription model, right?
No sub model, yeah.
Yeah, but you're still buying the game. It's like if you want to have all of these cash shop things, then just release it as a free to play, and then I have no criticism. It's like, okay, whatever, it's free to play. You can do whatever you want. But it's like if their thing is, oh, you're going to charge you for the box, and on top of it, we're going to sell you rested XP and boosts and all of these other things, I'm like, I'm not okay with it.
Okay, let's finish this up, and then I've got Firebird on deck to come in and weigh in on this with us. Heading towards launch, we're excited to test the functionality of our store and receive feedback on the items sold within it from the alpha community. Data from the alpha test, as well as feedback from testers themselves, will be studied closely, and tuning will be done on the store and content that we prepare for launch. The launch of New World is just the start. We plan on to consistently ship game updates with new content and drops for years to come. And we hope you join us on the shores of Eternum when New World releases on August 31st. Thanks again for all the help and support. So we did it. We made it through. That was actually not a long post, but I love the discussion here. At this time, we're adding... Yeah, go ahead.
I know Ragnaroki doesn't have a mic, so do you mind if I bring it up for him rather than him being able to talk it?
Yeah,
if he's okay with that? Or they? I don't want to. Yeah. They've said if XP boosts are considered pay to win, then the 3-day head start for pre-ordering Endwalker should be considered the same. I don't know about that because for one thing, anyone that's buying Endwalker is going to be pre-ordering it. Early access isn't an early access. It's just a way to say, oh, our servers have crashed, but it's okay. It's technically not live yet. But I don't consider it pay to win because at least for anyone else, I've been charged yet until really before release.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be charged a couple of weeks before it comes out. So I don't know. I don't consider that as the same as pay to win as XP boost.
I actually do. I'll be honest. I actually do. I'm not a big fan. I don't like whenever companies sell stuff like early access to their game. This happens a lot with Ubisoft titles, for instance. They always give you that, oh, you buy the deluxe version, you get early access. Microsoft did that for a couple of their releases as well. I'm never a fan of that. And I think that in MMO, it is most definitely an advantage, particularly when you have I know that in 14, the culture is not around like the race to realm first and stuff like that. At least I don't get that as much.
It's so anti-cultural because we want the story. Racing through the story is one way of getting like, no.
And there are people that do that, but the raids are normally delayed so that those that want to enjoy the story don't have to worry about the world first. Because if it's coming out in November, I'm going to guess the raid isn't going to come out till January. Because they're not going to have it around Christmas.
But think of it like this. So in 14, it's not a big deal to have that early access. I still don't like it personally, but it's not going to be something that's going to prevent me from playing the game, right? But think if World of Warcraft did the same thing, the community would explode.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome, Firebird. Thanks so much for taking the call to just jump into this. I've also posted the link, guys. This is our first call-in.
Hi, I did.
Hello.
And he's got a good microphone. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, when you start streaming during quarantine, you have to. Turns out sound quality matters. So
Oh yeah.
Before you weigh in case we boo your opinion away, what's I'm just
it's fine.
so you said you're streaming. Where can people find you?
Right now, almost nowhere. Life has been really busy, but normally,
like this guy already.
twitch.tv/firebird10112. I've been using this gamer tag since the old school RuneScape days. It was like, how about this? And I was like, that's garbage. Yeah, give me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was originally Mustang Fire. Yeah, no, but yeah, over on Twitch, I stream. I've been restarting streaming a game called Lost Odyssey for the 360. I don't know if any of you guys ever played it.
Incredible game.
Yeah,
I love
really
this
good.
man. He was lurking, and he's now a part of the show. He
Yeah,
will become a staple if he's not too careful.
We had people crying in chat during the first episode from the first memory that Kaim gets where the little girl dies. Spoilers. Straight up crying. Like I actually had tears. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so I actually, I was telling Brian, I was actually listening for a while and taking a couple of notes. First of all, you mentioned how Eternum has all these different cultures, which means balloons doesn't work.
Okay.
So coins is better. Just a note. Boo my opinion all you want, but
no, that's fine. I just think coins sounds like such a generic.
It's boring, but like
I don't care.
That would be fine. Like yeah, coins is boring, but I get why. I'm sure it's not a thought that
metal
they've had.
Pieces.
Yeah, hunks so garbage.
Crypto. I don't know. Let's do it.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, Doge.
Doge.
I'd be okay if they dropped little Doge coins. That would make me happy. Can I get that in the paid shop? Can I just turn all my coins into Doge? But so actually, this is an interesting thing because I've been playing. A couple of friends and I've been playing Knockout City just because it's like free right now, and it's like a dodgeball 3v3 game that EA put out. I don't know. EA is a garbage company, but the game's actually kind of fun. They've got it out for free right now for the next couple of days. But one of the things we were talking about, so after this like period of, I think it's like 3 more days or something that it's free, it's going to cost $20 if we want to keep playing it. And then they're going to have like a cosmetic store like every game on the planet right now. And one of the things that we've been talking about is like, one, is that good or bad, like just within our little insular group? And two is like, how many hours do you need to get out of a game while ignoring that cosmetic store to justify the cost? Right. So Knockout's going to cost $20. New World's going to cost 40. Right. By the way, New World, if you're listening, give me my fucking alpha key. Sorry for my language, but come on, like this is ridiculous. But one of the things we've talked about, so like where I live, it costs $20 to go to the movies, right? And you're going to go to the movies for 2.5 hours. And is that worth the cost? So for a game, like if you're going to stack it up to the same ratio, is $10 an hour if you get 4 hours out of New World without ever touching that paid shop, whether it's XP boosts, glowy wings, which again, if I never see a glowy wing in this game, I'll be a happy man. I play Path of Exile. I'm so sick of watching people's footsteps tank my frame rate on my 3080. Like I'm sick of it. But do you have to get 40 hours? Do you have to get 80 hours? I've played like probably 300 hours of Final Fantasy 14. I have literally 700 hours on Destiny 2. Like when it comes to these types of games, like in Destiny 2 is free arguably, but you have to paid expansions, right? How many hours do you have to get to make it worth it if you're ignoring that store altogether, right? Then when you add in this store, like it becomes this question of like, can you ignore it, right? And it's right. And I think it's an interesting thing that you guys brought up with, is it pay to win? It's an MMO, so like arguably other people's experiences don't affect your own as much, right? It's not like something like say Call of Duty where it's, I can pay to get a 2x damage bonus. But you can't, but like, but then they're also adding in these like massive fights. So how are they going to incorporate level capping into that? I think is going to be an interesting piece as you get these people that are getting higher and higher levels faster and faster, right? If I can race, the three of you guys and get better gear and then drop into a war against you and go, haha, look what I got. Is that now pay to win? Like, because if you, Brian, like, let's say, Brian, you told me, hey, I went out and I bought a double XP bonus because I really wanted to get to level 80 in foraging.
Right.
Cool. Good for you. You made a bad decision, but good for you. Like, right. I don't care.
You're an adult. You waste your money however you want.
Yeah. Like I play paintball on a team. Like I have thousands of dollars worth of paintball markers in my closet. It's a waste of money. I don't need all of them, but I like them. Right. They're shiny and they look cool.
Yeah.
And it's the same question, I think, like normally, but I think New World is playing this very fine line that games like, I think it was Guild Wars and things like that played as well, and Guild Wars to a certain degree of success, I think, where it's an MMO, but there's also this like very large emphasis on like kind of solo play experience too, where you can go through the story entirely by yourself. That like early access week that they did last year, I played solo that whole week and had a great time. Right. Never touched wars, never touched any of that stuff, and just ignored everything else that was going on in the world and played it like an RPG. So that's sort of, I don't know, like that's kind of where my thinking is like how much my kind of break point on something like a store is how much am I able to ignore it? Mm-hmm. Right. If I'm okay to just have paid my $40, get my 40 hours out of the game, and then step back and go, I'm done now. Right.
See, that's the thing that I personally, I really don't agree with that particular viewpoint of like equating a certain number of hours to a dollar amount. So for instance, I played a game called Vanquish a long time ago. I bought full retail price for it, which was like $60, something like that. And that game lasted me like 12 hours or something like that. I loved it. I was super happy about my purchase. I never once thought about not playing that game because what matters to me is the quality of the experience. And it's like, it was only 12 hours, felt a little bit short, but it was some action-packed 12 hours of awesomeness, right? And that's what matters. So it's like, if I can get 10 hours of really fun gameplay out of New World, then I'd be like, okay, sure, this is good. The problem is when you have a developer like this they're already starting to talk about, oh, we're going to sell boosts and we're going to sell this, we're going to sell that. That doesn't speak to me about someone who's concerned about making a good experience. That's more like someone who's concerned about making an experience with problems to then sell you the solutions.
Absolutely, yeah. It's buying half complete games, and I went on an actual rant on this. I wish I'd got it on stream, but I went on a rant at my friends with this because they were like, nah, it's like fine. And I was like, you have not bought a complete game for the last 10 years. You have bought a game that like has programmed bugs for the last 10 years, and they're going to sell you DLC to fix it. Right. Oh, yeah. But, and so like, I'm absolutely with you. The dollar amount thing, just to be clear, is like, just I'm a science person. Like it's my math brain trying to equate things to like logic.
I get it.
Right.
Absolutely. Like
it's relatable. I'm going to jump in on that because like it's relatable to know where someone's coming from, especially in games and the games that you referenced. These are persistent world, persistent login. You're getting a lot of multiplayer value out of it. The campaign is the campaign, but then the goal or the value that they're selling you or giving for free, and then hoping that you decide to put money into the other items is that, hey, yeah, we've got hundreds of hours of that. And then but you can't relate a game like that to a single player experience that might be like a 10-hour beautifully told and wonderfully played story, because it's like, sometimes like when a game's like, we've got this epic 60-hour story, and I'm like, I don't have 60 hours. I'll put 60 hours.
I'm gonna play 8 hours of that and then have like to go make sure my kid isn't choking on a penny. Right. Like,
by the way, I also don't really agree with your idea of how the fact that games nowadays are more buggy just to sell you DLC. Games are a lot more complicated than back in the day to program. Therefore, there's more chances for bugs. And also, the gaming industry is a lot bigger than it used to be. So therefore, there's a bigger audience. So there's more likely for people to notice the bugs. So with the complications of the content plus that, and even back in the day, they nickeled and dimed you because of arcades. Content was made harder than it should be just so that you're forced at certain points in the game to throw more money at it. It's why when people were like, excited about arcade crossovers I'm old. I remember when people got excited about when arcade games came to console. Those were a lot more difficult and short than previous games.
Freaking
I mean, like I also played the Lion King, what was it, like SNES or whatever game, where it was made impossible because they had to justify the fact that you spent all that money on it. Absolutely, and I'm not trying to say that like necessarily. I'm not trying to be like devs are evil, right? I understand, but like when you get a game, let's say Cyberpunk, that comes out, that has been delayed again and again, and then comes out with like game-breaking bugs, right?
Yeah,
that they're like that were like obvious to like literally. I played Cyberpunk for an hour, and I was like, I can't play this game. there's no way that the devs didn't look at that and go, well, we'll fix it later.
In development, to kind of like set the understanding for everybody, there isn't just one person, right? I'm a developer. I made games before, and I'm hopeful we'll make another one self-published. We'll see. These are things that I haven't, I'm not giving too much detail on, but we'll see in the end. There's the devs, there's publishers, there's so many people, and especially in AAA games, large groups. So essentially, like the devs, like I always kind of try to separate devs and publishers, because I usually side on and this is a world experience, on the side of the devs. Yes, people need publishers. There's got to be the money, right? Like these things, like, at some point, me working on this game, I go, I got to feed my family. This isn't paying for that. This isn't my dev time that I'm not getting paid for, doesn't feed the kids and pay the lights and do those things. And then you look at that at a bigger and bigger scale, and publishers want to make sure that they get their investment, because otherwise, if they don't, they go under. Yeah. I've said it before. I think the fact that we have video games, it's a great miracle of our time, and the fact is, like, if you go back to the first time you saw a video game, it's incredible. And then you go look at that video game now as an adult, you're like, that video game probably was garbage. Like, it was probably a hot bag of garbage, but it was still like your experience in this world of possibility.
And about Cyberpunk, by the way, wasn't there loads of rumors about the development team thinking it was going to be delayed another year? Like, they were really shocked that they had to release.
There's all kinds of stuff going on, but I think for me, it's Rory, you brought up that, like, they're already talking about monetizing these things. They're already talking about, like, monetizing solutions to problems that they don't know exist. And I think when I hear that, that just for me triggers this feeling of, like, what problems are you anticipating? Like, why are you already anticipating problems? You have delayed this game for 6 months. Like, there should be some amount of, I don't know, a surety to the people that have sat there. I have friends who pre-ordered New World and have already gotten refunds for it, because they're like, I'm not comfortable with what the process is that's going on.
Pre-ordered it to begin with.
I mean, like, but they pre-ordered it so they could get access to that early weekend, and they were like, "This is fun."
I hate that.
See, there you go.
I hate that
for access.
Yeah,
exactly right. But like, the thing is, that early access week, it was fun. It was a good time. But then, like, the process that they're seeing now, where stuff like this is coming, where they're saying, "Oh yeah, like, we're gonna monetize this." It's like, why?
Right.
Like, and so, like, with the XP boosts, to kind of bring it back to what you guys were talking about before, with the XP boosts, there's this pay to win thought, but then there's also the question of, like, is this them trying to even out the pre-order XP bonus thing that you're gonna get? Is this like where is this coming? You guys mentioned when you were talking about it before I got on, of, if it's only up to a certain level cap, right? If you're like, okay, we'll let you take this to level 25 to help you catch up to your two friends that are like, dude, come play this game. This game is dope. We need a third person for our party.
Yeah.
Sure, whatever. That's fine. But, like, and, at that point, it should maybe just be like after a certain date that triggers if you make a new account. But, that you run into other issues there. But it goes back to, like you guys were saying, is like, why is this already anticipated as an issue, I guess?
One thing I want to come back to on that note, though, is that, like, haven't we already solved that problem with level sync? Like, haven't we already solved that problem in other games? Like, why should anybody have to boost up to me when we can just kind of sync up and play the game together? Playing with friends, I think, is the key aspect. Like, you're right. Dude, come play. Like, the invitation to come play in and of itself shows a good game. People are willing to come in. And then essentially it's like, what people are faced with one of two choices. Like, why did your amazing game close down? Well, it didn't make any money, and then they went away. I do, before I go to you, Chili, White Liger says, how much money do you guys think Amazon actually has pumped into New World? I'd say easily like 250 million plus, especially with as much work as there's going on behind the scenes. But what do you think, Chili? You're going to say something?
When you're talking about playing with your friends and no boosts, then I'm going to have to suggest, if you want to do something like that, then go play ESO. Because that's the perfect game for that, where everything scales down to you.
Yeah, it figures that out.
Yeah,
but ESO is boring as hell, so
Not the worst.
It's not the word.
I've been desperately. I've been
ringing endorsement. It's not the worst.
Listen, man. I have 15. Listen, I have
Right.
1,500 hours, no joke, on my 360 stored for Oblivion. I have 800 hours on Skyrim. I logged on to ESO and I have 3 hours in the last 3, and I'm just like,
I'm saying ESO
Nah.
has a boost as well.
Yeah,
There
yes,
we
it
go.
does have XP boost from
All right.
MMO Rowan, but at least you can still do content with friends without it.
I want
Yeah.
to roundtable this. I'm really enjoying. Thanks for coming on, Fiber. This is actually like I
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
enjoy everybody's perspective because I feel like we kind of there's a different game. There's a rather than like a one note, kind of view. Yes, this is horrible. What's the solution? What like one of the things that frustrated me about I guess the content that was created since kind of this broke is that everybody was just like, this is horrible. But what's the solution? Because essentially, like if the devs don't listen and they just go off and they're like, "This all right, this was our plan and we executed the plan and the game sucks and nobody plays it," like, all right, moving on. There's a new exciting game right around the corner. I guarantee it. But what's the solution? Like, if you were in charge, you were sitting in the dev room, what would be your planned approach? Obviously, assuming the game is good and people want to play your game. If the game is bad, then none of this matters. Go ahead. I'm gonna go with Chili first.
Okay, no boosts. I would get rid of boosts just because I feel like they're not worth it. At least at launch, it should be something that may be planned in 2 or 3 years' time. If to catch up mechanic. If you're going to have mounts, make sure that the mounts that come out are just reskin versions of the ones you can earn for free in game, so you don't feel 100% left out, but you can purchase if need be. And I guess skins and dyes, but again, the dyes should not be something you cannot obtain in game. Like they've got to be all obtainable in game somehow. Though I do understand they do need to make money because servers cost money, devs cost money, it's all cost money. So I that would be me. But yeah, as Chaos says, I'd copy the cash shop from 14. That's what I would do, basically. Yeah.
All right, let's go with Rory.
I would have no cash shop whatsoever. Get some goodwill on your players because they're an unproven developer with a title that's already immersed in a bunch of controversy. The easiest solution, because let's face it, Amazon's got money. Okay, Amazon's got more money than they know what to do with. Amazon could almost buy the world, like just buy a continent if they want to, with all those stacks of money. So it's like they have the money. Buy some goodwill. That's what you do with your money. You sell the game, no cash shop whatsoever. Get some goodwill. Focus on making the experience fun, and then like a year, 2 years from now, start selling a couple of cosmetics to keep up with server costs. Because let's face it, if the game is successful, like if you're planning for a game to be successful, it's going to make so much money that it's going to easily pay off the first 2 years of server costs and still net a wild amount of profit. Because the thing is, when you have a good game, when a game is successful, it's going to generate word of mouth. It's going to word of mouth, particularly MMOs, because MMOs are social games. You're going to want to bring your friends in. Those friends are going to be like $40 and another $40. Instead of focusing on these pittance of like, oh man, we got to sell them this $5 shirt. How about just sell another $40 game? It's going to cost $40, right? We've said this, I think.
It's $40. Yeah.
Just like sell another $40 game. The price point is actually really good, which is going to make it, it's going to lower the barrier of entry. If people are enjoying the game and then just focus on making a good game, the game will sell itself. And then like 2 years from now, sell your black dyes, sell whatever skins you want to, whatever. But and no rested XP ever. No fast travel ever. Nothing that can give any kind of in-game advantage whatsoever. And not by their interpretation, by an actual interpretation of someone that understands how MMOs work. But that would be my solution. But that's completely unrealistic because nowadays, unfortunately, all of these development studios are run by the people in sales. Like, that Steve Jobs speech that he's done when he talked about Xerox, how it's like people who make a new product, like you make a new copier, who cares? Nobody cares. It can be the best copier in the world. Nobody cares. you sell a better copier. The people in sales that are going around actually trying to advertise and whatnot, those are the people that are going to run the company. And this is what happened with Amazon games as well. They're the ones running it. They're the ones deciding we need a cash shop. We need to make money. Blah, blah, blah. They don't even know if they have a good game yet. And they're just concerned about we need to make money. They just needs to make money. It's like, first make a good game, then think about how you're going to monetize it. But, look at Facebook, for instance. Like if you've seen the Social Network movie, you'll know that at the start, they didn't have any ads. Why didn't they have any ads? Because they didn't know what the website was yet. They waited until the website was mega successful. Then they stuffed it full of ads and brought it into the dirt. It is what it is. And it's like 2 years from now, I don't care if the game is bad. I just want to at least enjoy it while it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Fiber, what were your solutions? Like, what would be your ideal setup?
First of all, Rory is very much the Vegas know when to cash out mentality, apparently. There's no one to stuff it full of ads. Just give me my money back. Also, I'm a millennial. How dare you ask me to find a solution? God, boomers. All right. But
I'm not a boomer. I'm a freaking millennial.
We're all millennials.
Fine. Excuse me. That's my word. You can't use it.
Effing Gen Zers over here, not knowing what millennials are.
Excuse me.
Have you even paid taxes, whippersnapper? No, go ahead.
Excuse me. Have you seen this beard? My beard's longer than yours. Beard's longer than all three else put together. But no. So I mean, I think probably for me, it's sort of a middle ground between Chili and Rory's, where I don't mind there being a cash shop, but I'm going to keep quoting other games because it's all I know.
Yeah.
Is, for a game. So for example, for Knockout, like you can buy, or for if any of you guys have ever played like Magic the Gathering Arena, right?
Yeah.
Everything is earnable in game, everything. But it takes time. And for me, if you want to leapfrog that time, if you go either I don't care about the time and the money, or I don't have the time, so I just want it, fine. That's just the reality of the games world that we live in. But, at least, and I don't care if it costs, 100 diamonds to buy that die pack or 100,000 coin, right? Give me the option, right? Use whatever multiplier you need to sleep at night, on your giant pile of coins. That's fine. I don't care. But, as Chili said, don't give me stuff that changes the game fundamentally. Cosmetics, fine. If you want to reskin my horse to look like a skeleton, fine, right? But don't make it go twice as fast. Don't make that cape that I get to wear give me a 5% XP boost or a 10% attack bonus. Give me something that I can put on, show my friends, go, look how cool this is. They go, you're an idiot. You wasted your money, but yeah, it's cool looking. I like the horns on your skull, now, like, that's cool. You look like a demon. And then we move on with our lives, right? Like I said, when I first got in here, make it something that I can ignore and still sleep at night, right? The moment it becomes something that can't be ignored is the moment that you've transitioned from a game with a cash shop to a cash shop with a game on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense to people.
Makes
but
perfect sense, right? It's just like,
sense.
do you like ketchup with those fries, or do you like fries with the ketchup? It's the same kind. Like, what's the
fries with ketchup?
What's the accent?
Exactly, right. That for me is my ideal. Like, again, I'm always of the mentality of like, live and let live. If what you're doing isn't hurting me or anyone else, then I don't really care, right? Do what you want to do. Date who you want to date. Be who you want to be. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? But the moment that what you have done starts stepping into my space or somebody else's space, that's where I start drawing a line of, now I can't ignore the fact that, Joe Schmo 83 bought a fireball scroll and wiped out my entire fortress because he was willing to pay $30 for it.
Yeah.
That I can't ignore, right? And that's where I start drawing a line. As for rested XP and stuff like that, frankly, do what you want. I don't care, right? Like, again, that to me is something that, like, if you give me rested XP for 2 hours because I haven't been able to log in for 3 days because my mom was sick, okay, right? That's fine. I don't care. But, don't make it be, oh, here's 7 days of, double XP. Like, basically balance in all things is sort of where I always try and approach things from. That's me. Oh, and if you are going to make a cash shop, any gamer, any game dev who's listening, Brian, please, for the love of Christ, like make the math make sense. I'm so sick of cash shops where if I go in to buy 100 diamonds, it's
and then it's
$1. If I go in to buy 1,000 diamonds, it's $8.73. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, please.
Well, and then also when you purchase,
it's the best value.
It's when it's the value is why they do it.
About it.
But it's the price of the item that you're purchasing. So you buy 100, and the minimum is 100, but the item you're purchasing is either 110 or 90. So then all of a sudden you're just sitting there with that premium currency. And you're like, all right, how do I ninja getting the thing that I want and not sitting here having? I had the problem 14. Go ahead.
Well, my thing is just don't treat your customers like they're idiots. Like, don't get me wrong. I've met some really dumb gamers. I know some of them. They're great friends of mine. But, like, don't treat us like we're morons. Yeah, hey, how's it going? But don't treat us like we're morons, right? Because we're not. And the moment that somebody feels like they're going to, we're going to blow your game up. We're going to put it on blast, and you're going to lose 10% of your revenue. And, you know, like, it's not going to go well for you. So just don't do it. Like, if you're going to do a cash shop, make it balanced and make it honest. Just be real with us about what you're trying to do. Like you guys said, they haven't really released enough stuff about the actual cash shop to go, it is good or bad.
I think they had to focus on the game first and foremost. Like, the fact is that it's good to have the conversation, but I don't think there's anything they can ever say that will go positive or negative. I don't read anything that Amazon has released as negative. I don't receive it as positive, because anything can go either way. Take Swords of Legends Online. They were spending some time, and they spent like 45 minutes or 30 minutes, like felt like forever, on their cash shop on the first day before showing gameplay and talking about anything else. Like to me, that was the wrong choice.
Priorities are.
Right. It tells me where that's their priority.
Give us more money.
Yeah, it's concerning priorities, to be fair.
Here's how you're going to pay us. Here's how much you're going to pay us and how.
And this is what you're going to get for it.
Raise them right. Like,
man. But the core of it is like, I look at that and I go, actions speak louder than words every single time. And so that, like, what's going on with New World doesn't concern me at all. For me, when we look at it in terms of value, I'm like, I have no problem risking $40. If I get 40 hours out of the game, awesome. What I experienced in the preview, I go, this is fun. And my wife and I were like, yes, let's play this game together. I'm never this guy who gets sucked up by microtransactions. I think overall, from a microtransaction, is I bought the whale for Final Fantasy 14, which just came out. And that's because I wanted it. And I'm an adult and I couldn't go to FanFest this year. Anytime I've gotten anything else from Final Fantasy, it's because I went to FanFest and they're like, here's some digital stuff that you get that you can purchase optionally if you can't get a ticket and fly to Vegas. Buying the mount was way cheaper than flying to FanFest and hotel. Like it was like, this is cool. I'm happy to do that. But I also have over like 5,000 hours in this game. It'd be weird if at the same time that I didn't. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 11. I simp for Square. Like that's who I am. I love their games, and yes, they have gacha games, but I avoid those. Like I just like, all right, like if you're gonna
Brave Exvius is a good time, man.
I'll still like, I just don't engage in that kind of economy. So that's just to set some context for anybody who's listening to this clip or whatever and doesn't understand. Like I just don't engage in those markets. People obviously do, and that's why those markets exist. I look at it in a pure market economy. So if I was in charge, if I had my wish, I would make the subscription the MMO standard. But it just doesn't work. And people are like, oh, it works for 14 and WoW. No, it doesn't. They have effing cash shops. They have
14, 14, to be clear, 14 is not a subscription model. You have to buy 14 and then subscribe to 14, which is why none of us
play subscription model.
Which is why my group doesn't. Well, no, subscription model would be like old school RuneScape, where it's like, here's a membership that you can buy. A subscription model is when
RuneScape wasn't it purchasable back in the day? Like when we talk about old school, like it was just you subscribe and no box fee.
It was just you subscribe.
Okay,
yeah.
That's the only game I've ever heard that it works like that, because all of the other subscription model games you always have to buy. Like you have to buy
you get your 30 days.
You have to buy 14. Yeah, you have to buy all of them.
But regardless, though, like the model in and of itself is like for new games that are coming out in all development, even with 14 and WoW. They don't live just off of a subscription. They box, and then I always bundle box and subs together, but the subscription itself they have the cash shop and they added that in and that exists. And that's, like, okay, like that's the model in and of itself. I would prefer just the subscription only model for all games, but we haven't seen prices go up on subscription models. We haven't seen numbers go up on subscription models. It's not a growing economy. And then when you pair that with something like a Game Pass, so $15 a month for Game Pass versus $15 a month for a single game, like it becomes a value proposition that it might be value to Brian or the Final Fantasy subscriber. So a lot of people seem to get it like defensive or feel like I'm attacking 14. But essentially, when I'm talking about gaming in general and an economy in general, if you're looking at it as a value, proposition, Game Pass, if you had to make a choice, Game Pass would be 100% what I recommend to any gamer who is not actively like an MMO. And that endangers the genre as a whole. If you're not bringing in new blood, eventually everybody, sorry to break it to you, on this panel and watching and listening to this, isn't going to be playing games at some point in the future. It's going to be an impossibility. So you got to be bringing in new people. So I think that MMOs, obviously having dropped the subscription because they also couldn't compete. Like it's like people would be just in WoW and you'd come out with your WoW clone and people would be like, it's not worth it. I'm going to stay where the devil that I know versus the devil that I don't. So it's unfortunate because that would be the model I think that is ultimately fair. It puts everybody on the same playing field. Everybody on that game pays the same entry fee and it has the same experience and nobody else has. And then everything from a cash shop that we have today would be in game. It's earnable in game. Maybe it's ridiculous. Maybe you're pissed that to go get that really cool piece of gear, you have to go on some insane quest, but everybody is paying the same entry fee. But being that that's not a reality or a future that I see for the MMO genre, I like the box price. I like the expansion model where you have an expansion dropping once a year, kind of almost like a yearly subscription. Do you want to play all the new content? Here you go. And then between that, that's where it becomes tricky. What's that between element. Destiny frustrates me with its seasonal model because it has that FOMO, and they really lean hard into the FOMO for a while. They've stepped it back a little bit because essentially, but I just, being that I know as a parent, we kind of brought that up a little bit earlier. Firebird, you talked about like you might have to go adjust to do something, on the fly. That's life. I just say I'm just not going to engage in those kind of systems. But I get the appeal to the battle pass because I think the battle pass at least says if you play, you get all this stuff. If you don't pay, then you get all this stuff. And then you can decide at some point if you want to pay. So I would say that the model would be like everybody's got a battle pass, the free version. And then if you're ended up like, oh man, I'm really enjoying this. And then they're like, for $10, would you like all this other cool stuff along with it that you've already unlocked? I think that is where we'll see more and more go because overall gamers get frustrated by loot boxes. And when you look at what EA's done by selling the loot box stuff direct to people for thousands of dollars, because mathematically,
that is so cool.
Mathematically behind the scenes, they're like, we expect that in order that these will generate thousands upon thousands of dollars because gamers won't get what they want. I think if you had the loot box and you had the ability to trade, then I think that's ultimately fine. PSO2 does this. And for me, it doesn't give me any kind of heartburn because if you don't get something that you want, somebody else that's the thing that they want. And you can barter with the in-game systems. Thus, people are spending money on the cash shop and people are getting what they want. And it's engaging in that economy of scale. And so ultimately, like, I don't have a real solution because they have to get paid. But the only real thing I could say is that to echo what Rory is, like, focus in on the game, get people excited to play, have people inviting people in, and then have that conversation with the community. However, what I would have done in this situation, if I was in charge, obviously the NDA leak kind of probably kicked this off before maybe they were ready. So to give them a benefit of the doubt slightly in this regards, but let's just say, hey guys, like we're not launching with the cash shop, but we do have plans to implement something like that in the future. We want people to play and like the game and then weigh in on what would be the best value. What would be what's
missing? What's missing? What do you guys feel like you want to fill in those gaps?
Right.
See,
Like,
but at least that would show, different intent, completely different intent. Because from the moment that this happened to them, what was their focus? Control the message, go around, try to like make these sentences and make them work in our favor without necessarily compromising us from a legal standpoint. Let's go ahead and do all of the right things, all of the right steps, get the community out. Never was their focus on like, hey, how about, can we go back to developing the game now? No. Sitting on this brainstorm. We got to figure this out. We got to figure out how we're going to spin this story in our favor. It's like, no, stop developing the game. Let's talk about this cash shop. It's like, come on.
well, the problem is like in the modern world, if you say one thing out of line, I'm sure there's a dozen things that I've already said in the half hour that I've been in this call that somebody could take and post on Twitter, and like my life will never be the same, right? Somebody's gonna be like, oh, he has 1,500 hours in Oblivion. He clearly didn't spend enough time in high school doing his work, that kind of stuff. And it's like, so I agree. It's frustrating that, this message came out of like, there's a cash shop, and it was like, okay, figure out how to make this work instead of figure out how to finish the game. But at the same time, I kind of understand why, because if they didn't get on top of it, then letting the internet have a bone to chew on is like maybe the worst thing you can do. Like it's never going to go well for you.
But there's ways and ways of doing things. And if you read because they had two opportunities to address this, because if they had two written posts, and in both those posts, you can interpret the things that they're saying. It's very deliberate that they're saying, we're going to sell pay to win stuff at some point. Like that's what they're saying.
And I don't disagree with you on that. I think, and I don't disagree with you on that. I think that does not send a happy, tingly feeling. It sends the opposite tingly feeling where you go, oh, I think I'm gonna be sick. Right. And it's Ragnaroki in the comments. Yeah, I mean, like it's the internet started exploding.
Respond to it because there are people who listen to this in audio.
Sorry, they said, "What do you want them to do?" Someone broke the NDA and the internet exploded. They can't just jump back into talking about game development while the internet is exploding about the cash shop. And that was sort of what I was trying to say.
It looks disingenuous. It's
like, they can't just be like, "We're going to ignore the."
They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Like hands down.
There's no good way out of this.
Right, and that's where I have problems with internet culture. Like I live on the internet. I feel like I'm a part of that culture itself. So I have to spend a lot of time like going like, yep, I'm not going to say anything because no one's in the position to hear it and no one's in the position to have that rational discussion. The internet, in my opinion, I'm going to be very clear about what I'm about to say because people get mad at me when I say it, is that it isn't a logic engine. It's an emotional engine. It's an engine built on who has the most emotional response. And thus that's what we're going to reward, positive and negative. Go ahead.
We're the PS2.
True. The emotion engine, absolutely good. Well picked up. Took me a second. Awesome.
But
yeah, Rory, what would you expect them to do? Like they didn't have the ability to control the message.
Like you said, just get rid of the cash shop. Like it's the easiest thing to do. Just like listen, just tell the community there are plans for a cash shop. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it at a later time. We're not going to implement a cash shop at launch. Boom, done. Think about it. Is the money that they're going to lose with people refunding this game really going to be worth the few whales that they're going to get? Not to mention the community backlash, the complete destruction of goodwill from their consumer base. Like, is it worth all that? I don't think so. So just get rid of it. Just straight up get rid of it and talk about it at a later date. Boom, done.
You don't understand how much money whales spend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what Amazon. That would be the Amazon reply. They'd come up in the show and they'd be like, "You don't understand how much money we're going to make with this." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, the 1,000 people that are going to refund their purchase. Are you kidding me? We're going to triple them. Like,
exactly.
Like clearly you haven't played Genshin before. Clearly you haven't seen my bank account after I started playing Genshin. Like,
I haven't spent a dime on Genshin. Just FYI.
How do you feel about having every 5 stars?
Yeah, I don't have every 5-star, and I feel fine about it. Like, I don't care.
Look at this minnow over here.
I don't care. Yeah, I am very cute. my wife finds me attractive, so that's nice. Archman, I know you're here with us. I know you're muted. I don't know if you want to weigh in at all, but I was going to give you the opportunity. We'll see if there we go. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Perfectly loud and clear, man. You're on air. What's up?
Wow. Well, first, I'm a huge fan. I watch. I unfortunately don't know Firebird's work or Chili's work, but I watch all of Ruricon's Monster Hunter videos. And Brian, I follow you and Chris. I hope to play 11 with you sometime in the future.
Well, we're playing today if you want to join in, but go ahead. Yeah.
Artie, there's no work of mine to follow. Don't worry about it. You're cool.
But
And my work is not worth it, so just follow these two.
Yeah, you're better off.
I found the conversation about time value proposition really interesting. And I think that the reason why it's really hard to equate that to universal is because everyone's time is worth something so different. A person who works a McJob, a sub costs 2 hours of their working day, while other fortunate people, a sub costs me 15 minutes of work.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's really hard to base it on that, particularly given the economic status of a lot of things going around. So I think you always have to base it on what's worth it to the individual and the goodwill of the developer themselves, the track record that they have to think that they're going to bring you something worthwhile in the future, which is why I think that Final Fantasy XIV's cash shop is well received. I recently saw a Twitter post from Bellular Gaming, who he questioned, why do people not flagellate Square Enix for Final Fantasy XIV's cash shop, but they will for Blizzard's cash shop. And I think it's because we've seen time and time again that the 14 devs actually they have goodwill and intent to grow the game, and not just their position as a corporation or to get the stocks and things up. I want to
jump in. I want to jump in on that thought, because you bring up a really interesting point in terms of 14 specifically. I am not the only one alone, but could be argued that 1.0 did not have that intent. And that's one of the big things why people love what Yoshi P has done specifically in terms of 2.0. He had to earn the trust back. And that's a big key factor to what I think you're saying here. And correct me if I'm wrong on that regards, but where 1.0 clearly fell on its face, didn't focus in on good gameplay, didn't respect the player's time, trust, and effort, was poorly received, rejected, and basically almost brought about the ruin of Square Enix. And then 2.0 coming around, 3.0 and beyond, Yoshi P and the team focusing on the gamer and the relationship with the gamer, a good game that a gamer can play, step away from, come back and return to, and a cash shop that is not up in your face and always asking for money, but offering value to the players who choose to engage with it. That I think is almost a textbook example answer. Not everybody, you'll never get 100% consensus on it, but does that ring true to what you're kind of talking about? Let me know if I got any of that wrong.
No,
can I jump in here?
Yeah, let's Rory, go ahead.
So just real quick, I think it's funny whenever, because I've actually been listening to this throughout this week. I've heard several people say that, oh my God, I can't. Several people that play World of Warcraft express the sentiment, oh, I can't even imagine if our cash shop was as bad as Final Fantasy XIV's. And I'm just sitting here thinking, so wait a minute. Your cash shop literally has incentives for people to subscribe for 6 months, regardless of whether or not they're having fun, like constantly flaunting mounts in front of you. It's like, hey, you can get this mount if you sub for 6 months. And then on top of it, World of Warcraft's cash shop is literally pay to win, which is never discussed. I find this completely insane that nobody ever talks about how World of Warcraft's cash shop is literally pay to win, because you can buy a WoW token, you can sell it for gold, and then you can use that gold to buy and then equip epic pieces from the auction house. So literally pay to win, and they still go and criticize the Final Fantasy
right.
14
You're 100% correct. Nobody looks at it because the WoW token is seen as some the original advertised intent for it was to say, hey, you can play to pay your sub. We're so gracious. Look at us giving the community exactly what they want. But it really is everything that you can see. And even without the proof of intent, my experience with Blizzard tells me that there was insidious behavior to drive it.
Quick. You know what the funny part is not an MMO, but if you look at like the Battle Pass subscription for Call of Duty, for Warzone, that actually pays for itself. Like, no joke, actually pays for itself. Costs like 1,000 COD points.
The same.
yeah, it costs like 1,000 whatevers, which is like the generic currency in the game. And then you earn 1,300 if you level the battle pass all the way up over the course of like 2.5 months. And it's weird because then you compare that to how Blizzard is because they're both owned by Blizzard, how they're doing the WoW shop, like how they mediate the WoW shop, and you go, these cannot be the same people. These are so wildly different in mentality. Like, what the hell? Like, who made this call? Like, whose job is this, and why haven't they looked in the mirror lately?
Before you go, Chili, I want to see if Ragnarok is here because they have a mic now.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, man. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. So I think one thing that has been missed in a lot of this now, I was there for both the original alphas for New World.
Yeah.
Played both of them. I've actually had the game pre-ordered since before it went for $40. So back when it was still free on Amazon.com is when I pre-ordered.
Nice.
One thing we seem to be missing here, they told us over a year ago there was going to be a cash shop. This was nothing new to people who have been following this game for a long period of time.
Correct.
So
100%.
having somebody explode on the internet about having a cash shop in the game, we knew this was coming. And quite honestly, like if they're going to put boosters into the game, XP boosters, if they're as long as they're like 6 months down the road, who cares? Like everybody's hit max level at that point that started playing in the beginning. What does it matter at that point?
Ragnaraki, I think that the point is about the spirit of the game, right? Like when I look at a cash shop and I think, if they're going to sell boosts, what is the pillar of the game? And the part of the advertised pillar of New World is player versus player content. And so I think it's disingenuous to allow for purchasable differences for people's experience. Now, if you have a PvE-centric, cooperative-focused game where if I buy something, it's just going to ultimately help the community, the friends that I play with, the activities that I and others around me do, then it doesn't seem as egregious. And in my opinion, it's not as egregious. But when you have something that's competitive, where your enjoyment of the game is based on victory versus defeat, that's where the line has to be drawn, I personally feel.
But at the same time, like...
Can I just add something here?
I'm going to go ahead, Chili, and then let's go back to Ragnarok.
I will add here now that because it's PvP focused, cosmetic stuff will affect a lot more than PvE content, because a lot of the PvP content's shiny, so you're fairly more visible. So technically...
Insert rose skin discussion. Insert rose skin discussion for anybody who's played COD. Like, it does matter, but
Ragnarok, let's go back to you. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying because it's a PvP focused game, like that's an issue if somebody has an XP boost. But again, like they said, they're not launching these XP boosts at launch. Like they're not going to be there on launch day. So by the time they put these things in, if you're already max level with your gear, whatever you're going to use, what a new player coming in 6 months, a year down the line has to slog through everything because you did? Like, where do you, how are you going to draw a line to say a new player coming in, they have to, I dealt with this terrible leveling system, or I dealt with this, or I dealt with that. So they have to too, because they're coming in later.
The point that for me personally, whenever it was about the cash shop, I already knew that New World was going to have a cash shop, regardless of them having announced it or not. I didn't know that it had been announced a year ago. The reason that I was upset was the fact that they were talking about selling rested XP and talking about how selling travel, fast travel things would not affect the power of the game, with it being like a Dominion type game, it clearly affects the power. You being able to travel faster throughout the world is clearly a pay to win mechanic, period. And when it comes to the XP stuff, I just think that first they should focus on having a leveling experience that is fun, and basically selling XP boosters directly contradicts their motivation to do that. So when you have something like that being sold for real currency, you have a definitive incentive to make the leveling worse. And this is something that has happened in a lot of games in the past. Like a super easy example is Diablo 3, like I brought up earlier. It's like you had the what's it called? The friggin' auction house, and the drop rates were completely abysmal. It was terrible, complete garbage because of the fact that it had an auction house to incentivize people to go and use the auction house. That's the problem that I personally have with it, with the XP boosters and whatnot.
I'm going to jump in on that aspect because there's a couple of things, that are said. And on all sides, there's a lot of assumptions being made. There's the assumption that the leveling experience is terrible. If somebody wants to go and throw their money at something, like, again, I'm not their parent, if they're not spending my money and they want to go and accelerate their leveling experience, it doesn't necessarily equate to a bad leveling experience. However, there is definitely examples where it can and has in the past, which ties back to my rooted, question, or the thing that is going and working actively against Amazon at this point in time, is that they have yet to show that they can be trusted, that they continue to listen, and that they have a good game. Now, from what I've experienced and what I've seen them communicate, it lends me to give them the benefit of the doubt. However, that doesn't necessarily mean anything come August 31st. August 31st is brass tacks. How is your game? Is it, are people enjoying your game? And then B, are you going to be a company that follows that up with, good communication, listening, and what I mean, active feedback, because gamers will design the crap out of and make good games bad because, like, gamers will optimize the fun out of anything. Like that's a theme that I think is a good mantra for this podcast. So it's at the end of the day, like, it's important to hear and to respond, but it doesn't mean that you're going to implement every possible thing that every player wants in a given time frame. Boosts themselves, like as they've said, it's that if it's earnable in game, because in games that I play, even like Final Fantasy 11, an old MMO, subscription only, in terms of its current retail model. At the core of it, yeah, you got rings that help increase your EXP, but they're earnable and exchangeable in game by playing the game itself. And so with New World, I'm more apt to give them the benefit of the doubt, but there are obviously risks, and those risks shouldn't be glossed over. And I think it's unfortunate that the NDA was broken, because this wasn't news, but it's only led, in my opinion, to see a lot of people speculate based off of other crappy things that have happened in the past. Just because EA sucks, just because Activision sucks, doesn't necessarily equate to that. But Amazon hasn't given us a reason to trust them. And I would say, and if I was advising any gamer out there, it's like, be skeptical. If you're on the fence, if you're worried, if this is something that causes you to either not pre-order, which I don't think anybody should pre-order any game, it's like, there's no scarcity of inventory. But beyond that aspect, like, if it has you hold. For me, I've already felt like I've gotten enough value that I see that there's definitely a game that I want to experience. Whether it's a game that I want to pour 5,000 hours into or not, honestly, that's on Amazon, and that's my personal take. Ragnarok, I want to let you talk, and then we'll say goodbye to our guests, and we'll wrap up the show. I know we've gone over a little bit longer than I like.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. I actually have to bounce. Like, I just saw what time it is. I actually got to bounce like right now.
Nice to meet you,
yeah, but thank you guys so much. This was tons of fun, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one. But
absolutely. See you, Fiverr.
See you guys.
See you, Fiverr.
You're still there, Ragnarok?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and do your final thought there on that.
Just like two things. One thing I'd said about earlier about if you consider like an XP booster to be pay to win, then like Final Fantasy 14 pre-ordering Endwalker, getting that 3-day head start is the same thing.
It is.
Same thing.
I agree. At the end of the day,
100%.
I can go in there on the 19th on Final Fantasy 14. I can play through that story in 20 hours. Turn around, level my Disciple Hand and land up in that same 3-day head start.
Mm-hmm.
By the time everybody else that doesn't pre-order that game and gets it on launch day, guess what? I'm already pre-making their high-level gear for Gil to sell to them, and I already have it on my own character, so I'm already ahead of them.
100%.
Because
the difference is, nearly everyone's going to pre-order the game.
We still have brand new people coming to Final Fantasy 14.
But his point still being that if you consider boosts in
Yeah.
other games pay to win, and you don't consider it in Final Fantasy 14, you might need to look in the mirror.
No, but I completely agree with what he's saying. I've said it earlier that I completely don't like the fact that you get the 3-day head start and all that stuff, and even the whatever percentage earring or whatnot. It's just ultimately Final Fantasy 14 is not a game that I play in a way where that is relevant. Whereas in a game where New World, I feel like that would be much more relevant. But regardless, I completely agree that it is a pay to win mechanic, and I am not a fan of it.
Ragnarok, thank you so much for coming on and expressing. I want to let Archimon do their final thought. But you're welcome back on the show anytime. And so far, I'm very happy with how welcoming guests randomly onto the show has turned out. So Ragnarok, dude, please come back and hopefully we can talk some more. I'd love to hear from you.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right, bye.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Archimon, do you want to weigh in with a final thought before we the three of us wrap up today's podcast?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for giving me the last word. I think that part of the reason why I would disagree with his final statement was that, again, Final Fantasy 14 doesn't have a competitive spirit to it. Nobody logs into 14 and says, I win the game because I have the most gil. I mean, some people do that personally, but there is actually no mechanical reward for having the most gil in the game. That's why you see streamers giving away their gil. It doesn't matter anymore to gil. People say it's so easy to make.
Who's giving away their gil? I need
Chris has been giving away his gil.
Yeah, giving away gil. Lots of people do that. So because it doesn't have a competitive spirit in that nature to it, where you don't vie for the top competitive spot where you get purchases and
the grand companies don't control different zones, which then give everybody perks.
Yeah.
I do still wish we had that, though. I'm not going to lie. I love Conquest back in 11, but go ahead. Can you continue on, please?
No, I guess that was it. It was I think that would be my final thought is that if you in 14, it doesn't really do anything except benefit you and your friends to have those advantages because it doesn't detract from anyone else, really.
Yeah.
All of the content is accessible by the most casual players. You can see all of the story, everything, and my lack of gil or surplus of gil doesn't take that away. So I find it a non-equitor to a PvE cooperative focused game for a game that's touted to be about PvP, conquest, etc.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've always kind of said that, pay to win is a very interesting thing because my wife is a collector, and the fact that she likes collecting mounts and things like that when she was playing 14 in this case, had her go, the only way to win would be to purchase in that regard. So everybody's going to have that definition. And the thing is that I always kind of say, same thing with people's opinions. Like, I value everyone's opinion as long as I especially understand the context as to where their opinion is being built on, right? Like when Lazy Peon released his video and review of Final Fantasy 14 originally and received so much hate, I didn't find any problems with his video because he clearly said, like, this is what I like. And other subsequent videos, when he talks about other games, it's easy to be able to understand like what his view of a good MMO is. It's not something I align with. I don't agree with his end result, but I think his opinion is completely valid, especially as it relates to that game, as long as I understand the context, right? Like, it would be one thing to say, I've played the entire story, and I'm an expert in the story, and the story's garbage. Like, it's like somebody would be like, wait, like, how did you get to that? You have to then kind of, in a way, like back in the old elementary, like, show your work. Whatever your answer is, yeah, you ended up getting, the answer correct, but how did you get to the answer? Oh, it turns out you guessed. Like, what's the context? Do you understand the source material? Do you understand to be able to have an informed opinion on what you're speaking of? Now, it then would be, if you didn't play the story, to say like, hey, I really didn't play the story. Story ain't my thing. This is my take on the game. Like, that's a perfectly legitimate kind of take. That's where I find context being king. Archimon, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Thank you so much for coming into the show. I really appreciate you weighing in.
Thanks, guys.
So, welcome back anytime. We're going to end up having a rolling list of those who are welcome to the show. So we are going to have let's see. It said kick. Learn it. Remove. There we go. All right. Well, I didn't like. What if I kick and all of a sudden the application? But I'm still learning. Right. What if the application all of a sudden is like, he can never come back in? No, he was fantastic. Like, come back.
That was awesome.
Chili, what are your thoughts?
Wow. Can we move on for a second? I need a second to think.
Okay, sure. That's. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to be wrapping up the show here.
Yeah.
Let's go with Rory, and then we'll let go to Chili. So, final thoughts, roundtable. Rurikon, floor is yours.
I mean, I pretty much retain my position. Like, I haven't really heard an argument the whole show that kind of leads me to believe that somehow them selling rested XP
That's a good
or selling fast travel is going to be a positive gain on the community or in the game itself.
Right.
All that I see to me are negatives to those two things, especially when they're so concerned about that, and particularly about the messaging around that store. That is their concern, as opposed to concerning themselves. Oh, this next update, we're doing this and this and this, all of these things, and we're adding these quality of life things. It's like, no, let's really hone down in on this thing. It's like they should have gotten rid of it. Like you said, they should have like, listen, we're going to have a cash shop because everybody knows it's an MMO. It's going to have a cash shop. We'll just talk about it at a later date. That's what I think they should have done.
Yeah, here's our thoughts, and we're going to be having an open dialogue with the community. But let's focus in on releasing this game first. There'll still be people who'd be pissed about that because they'd be like, I need to see the cash shop before I invest my time. And that's kind of the question is like, what's your time worth? Chili, are you ready?
Okay, I will say that, they needed to wait before they announced any of this. The benefit of Fantasy 14 that we talked about earlier, the reason why it doesn't get so much hate is because they're so open about the cash shop. We know exactly where the money goes to in the end. Like, we heard about the fact that the money went to the EU servers, then the North American movement servers, and probably now the Oceania servers. They're at least open with where the cash shop money is going, and they've had plenty of years to earn that goodwill from Fantasy 11. And yeah, 1.0 sucked, but they had 2.0, and they've had since then to earn that goodwill back. So there's less hate about the cash shop, and I believe Amazon hasn't earned the goodwill, especially with all the cancelled projects they've already had over the years. There's been a load of Amazon games that have been announced that never got released, so they haven't actually had. Who knows? Maybe New World will do worse than they expected, and at the end of the year, it's already gone.
Yeah,
I doubt it. I really doubt it. But
I doubt it. Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's all going to be dependent. Does it find an audience, and is it a good game? Chili, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me over on twitch.tv/Moogle Go Around Radio, and you can find me on Twitter as MG_Chili.
All right, and Rurikon, how about you, man? Where can people find you? What are you working on?
People can find me at youtube.com/Rurikon and twitch.tv/Rurikon. And I'm working on some Monster Rise content for the 3.0 update. And soon I'll probably be getting back to play the rest of the Mass Effect trilogy because that's a whole lot of fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to find some time to dive into that myself. But for me, guys, I've just been actually playing Final Fantasy 11. I've been having a blast with the return. Gonna be playing some of that today on stream after Chris and I film some work to game videos. Chili, thanks so much for coming in. Very short notice here. I'll try to get you added to the kind of the running group. The goal for the podcast is to have ideally a bench. And honestly, it was really exciting. Probably the best podcast in history that we've had here at Epic Loot regarding like bringing in people, at random. There's the thing. Like, here's the link. Come in and join. And everyone.
I was just
audio quality.
I was just surprised that we didn't get like a random person come in and shout like some racist slur or something, or have like a
I feel like the
microphone that
word
would
to
make
game
everyone's
crew
ears
is
bleed.
like that's a good enough audience.
Oh yeah, like we're established to the point enough that
Except
Eddie, the trolls have just kind of like they're like, yeah, we're obviously not gonna like get them to stop posting. It's like, in fact, the trolls just I think make me post more. Like, stop posting content. Oh, you want 3 videos today?
Oh, sure. We'll get right on that.
You got it. We miss you, Chaos. Chaos is working. And that's the thing about it. That the goal is to hopefully have a really good conversational show. And based off today, if you guys enjoyed the call-ins, let us know. If you want to be a part of these live shows, right now we're currently broadcasting them on Ginger Prime and Ginger Gaming Radio, and I've been uploading the actually enhanced audio and video quality as a full podcast over on Ginger Game Radio, and you can also subscribe wherever podcasts are found. Just search for Work to Game, and you will see our podcast run through. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show. We're going to wrap up in this case, so let me go ahead and kick this off. See if I can get it right this time now that Rory's got me kind of like choking up it from time at that one time. Anyway, guys, for Epic Loot Radio, my name is Brian. This has been episode 21. You are amazing, awesome, and we love you very much. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
So it's somehow my fault?
Yeah, I'm blaming you. Like you said, like your intros, and then I like that very episode or whatever. It's like,
hey, Taro TV. Wait. By the way, thank you to someone in the chat who complimented my poop hat.
Yes. If you guys don't follow the She-Hills I Tank podcast, as well as the many other podcasts, Chili, I think, is just a gift to the 14
Oh,
community,
thank you.
especially just as
I hate the fact that my camera's screwing up because I wasn't able to set it up in time.
I just
Unless
like
you
you
just
can't
got
flip, I think it looks like you're flipping everybody off, like when you do that, because I can't see your hand. Like, what? What do you want?
Censored.
Yeah, exactly. It's been really good. Oh man, thanks everybody for tuning in live. This is a long show. I do apologize for keeping you, Rory. I know we I do have a goal. We'll hopefully get better at it, especially if we do Collins. We were going to be like talking about Monster Hunter Rise. So I'll go update titles and things like that. But
fine.
it was a big topic. It was definitely a big topic. We had that was a really good stuff.
Q is complaining about Monster Hunter Rise updates.
By
Very good friend of mine.
Big Rob, there'll be a link in the description when this goes live with my Twitch. But if anyone wants, it's Moogle Go Around Radio. So
yeah, and just make sure we always try to include those there. And if you guys haven't subscribed and you feel like you want to, be sure to go and subscribe to RoryCon. Be sure to go follow Chili on Twitch, and then and then if you feel like doing it here, we'd love it. I'd love it if you come back.
Yeah, please subscribe here, and then they might have me come back again. Hopefully, maybe with less than 2 minutes. I'm gonna get you into the just the general what I'm calling the bench, because ideally I like to have if we in order to produce these regularly, it helps. Yeah, I was like YouTube.
Here's a
on
link.
my phone. Got home, loaded up YouTube on my phone, and I heard Brian say, "I'm going to contact a friend about this," and then suddenly I got a direct message. I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
hi."
That's how it happens here, guys. All right, I'm gonna hit end broadcast. Thanks for being here. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.